Welcome everybody. Hopefully you're all having a fantastic day so far. Hopefully this Bitcoin dump today never caught you too much off guard, as we just talked about it last night around the same time, basically 24 hours ago. Do me a favor, let me know, audio visual check. Can you hear me clearly? You can see my charts and everything. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are across the world. Welcome. Oh, let me just I have a little bit of an echo going on here. There we go. I think that is fixed. But yeah, do me a favor. Let me know if you can hear me and see everything okay. Basically, guys, this move did not come as too much of a surprise as we talked about last night. I did not like how this weekly candle closed. The fact that, just a couple days ago, we had this weekly candle close and this new weekly open, and it was right against that 786, you guys. And that is the macro resistance that I've been looking at for such a long time now. And that's basically the same. I mean, every type of scalp kind of setup that I'm showing you guys, it always comes back to when I'm looking at these Fibonacci's, right? Generally the Stuber fibs, so the 786 to 886 with certain structure breaks and that sort of thing. But basically, whether it's the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 4 hour, in this case, even the weekly, pulling that fib and just seeing that, I respect them the same, whether it's the 1 minute, the 5 minute, I trade it. That's one of my favorite trading strategies. So to see that on the weekly chart just had me really second guessing what was going on Sunday evening there. So turns out that was absolutely the correct call, because right from where we closed, we opened this candle and just a massive engulfing bearish candle so far. Now, we do have to be cautious of this, you guys. There is 5 days left in this candle. So I don't want to say for sure that it's going to close this way, right? I mean, the Bitcoin bulls could come out of nowhere and absolutely suck this baby back up and we just blast off from there. Absolutely a possibility. Just as it looks right now, it just looks like a typical bearish Stuber short setup, just on a much larger time frame than I typically short. So, if we end up getting this full move here, guys, we could be looking at a target of down around 54,000 US dollars. That would be the 214 fib, which would basically be the opposing 786. If I pull it from where we've bought them so far, it won't quite be there. It'll be front running it very slightly. But that 786 runs at about 53.3, 53.4K. I would personally look for a closer target than that. Looking at the 4 hour, I have this chart beautifully mapped out here. I'll explain everything in a little bit. But basically, I'm looking at a target from this setup leading down towards 55.5K would be quite reasonable. I'm calling it 56K just to front run that a little bit. And it does not have to happen, right? If all of a sudden we change structure, let's say we set a lower low, another lower low, lower low, and then we break that trend, something like so, it's absolutely possible that we're getting a bounce a little bit early and not quite going to reach the 786. Absolutely possible. But that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Because you guys, when I look at the 4 hour chart here, I know a lot of people are getting caught off guard by this price action, but we've had the exact same swing 3 times in a row. So it's actually quite clear what has been happening. I've had it labeled ever since starting streaming on this channel. Pretty much I had these lower lows and lower highs mapped out, and nothing there has changed. And notice that every time we set a lower low, we come up to that 786, 886 fib pocket and we get a rejection. We end up in the next swing, right? We set another lower low here. Then we get a pullback up to the 786, 886 fib pocket. Boom, lower high created. We set another lower low. Well, where did we get up to? We got up. We just finally now tested that 786 just a few days ago. And then we got a classic rejection at that level. So as this structure stands right now, nothing has changed. I've had this mapped out since early June. I believe it was June 13th to be exact that I've started watching this downtrend. And so far, it's been the exact same every time. I mean, here it is laid out very clearly, all labeled. And then yesterday I was warning that, technically we do have this daily support, right? It was looking weak, but that was basically the last thing I was looking for, was more so something like this, the candle bodies on the daily, before getting this little push to the upside here. Notice that we lost that structure. So at this point, that has also lost credibility, in my opinion. Looking at the 4 hour, we had an even more accurate trend line here, basically. Several touch points respecting this slightly upward trending support line, and we got that 4 hour close below that, retested it perfectly, and then just continued on the move to the downside. So the price is actually acting very healthy. I know a lot of people don't want to look at it that way, because most people just want the market to go straight up. That's not how markets move. They have pullbacks, you have structure breaks, then pullbacks, all very natural. And the thing is that on a longer time frame, everyone is, and myself included, I'm very bullish on Bitcoin. I'm very, very bullish on crypto as a whole. And no, I don't think this market cycle's over yet. But these longer swings take a long time to play out. And, as that happens, like everyone just kind of loses sight of things, because everyone's seen this as consolidation. But for what it is so far, we just have lower lows and lower highs. We did not break this lower high structure yet. And, that's the range I'm looking at for now. I'm actually going to erase this bullish range here. I'll keep the 786, 886 fib box here mapped out in green, just because I think there's absolutely possibility support kicks in there. But as it stands right now, I'm just going to keep the right now stuff up just to clean things up. But I did want to show that whole mapped out scenario there, just so you could see how every one of these swings has been the exact same trade setup, and played out beautifully. And so just basically everyone sees this as consolidation, which is true. We are just trading in a bigger range, basically. But that range is still structured to the downside. We have lower lows and lower highs. Day one technical analysis lessons. If you were to take lessons from somebody, that would be day one stuff. Is just a series of lower lows and lower highs is a downtrend. You try to play the short side on that if possible, right? Because you're playing, the trend is your friend. I would love to be a moon boy. I just can't be yet. And I'll still get bullish at certain levels. I'll be more open to the idea of playing the bullish side once we get down to these levels. But if we lose that 786, 886, there is one bigger one, obviously, like I pointed out earlier. It would be something like that. But basically, if we set another lower low here, I don't know if we're going to get such a healthy bounce like all of these were. Because that's all these were reaction rallies to the next Stu or fib and then rejection. But they're very healthy, right? Breaking structure, not getting a breakout. And that's where a lot of people struggle, is after they see the lower low, it's instantly time to short for most people. But, most often the market does not move in breakouts. Most often it's ranging, it's breaking structure, it's pulling back, it's chopping around a whole bunch. But after a certain point, if we see so many lower lows being broken like that, and also with wars being in the, wars are escalating right now, according to the media. And you know what? I don't really follow it all that closely. I'm not a fundamental guy. I am strictly a charts guy. Yes, it's unfortunate what's going on over there. But someone and myself were actually talking earlier about how I did a video, I think it was back in June, and I had mentioned that when we come back up to this 786, 886 fib, sorry, let me get this back up here. I had mentioned in one of my previous videos that, I can't remember where it is. I'm going to try and find it and grab a clip from it. But I had mentioned that we were going to see in the media that war is escalating as we approach the 786, 886 Fibonacci's. I said that was absolutely a good possibility. And then we'd see that getting blamed. But at the end of the day, it's the exact same setup we had last top. This is when Trump gave his very bullish speech on crypto. Perfect top right there. Don't remember what happened here. But I was talking about the possibilities of wars escalating as we approach these levels and get our hard rejection. So it's kind of weird that charts will often predict world events like that. And, the media, one reason why I personally don't trade the news, and I try and actively avoid it because for one, you don't know what's true and what's not anymore. Um, but also, when it comes to the markets, there's most likely already two articles written for what happens. So, I mean, you can go back and, yes, obviously the war is going to be blamed for this move. But it's very possible that the war could have been escalating and something else happened in the economy, or people decided, oh, Bitcoin's our safe place, and all of a sudden we start mooning. You just have those articles written on both sides where, hey, if something bullish happens, they're going to drop this news article that this is why it happened, and if it goes down, they're going to drop this news article. So that doesn't really help you with trading ahead of time, whereas the structure was predicted here. So yes, if the fundamentals, something scary like war, like a pandemic, anything like that, when it's matching up with the chart structure, yes, I'm willing to consider the fact that, hey, things might get more violent and more aggressive than what we're thinking, but the structure is already there. I'm not trading just based off that fundamental. So that's just a little bit of an interesting theory right there, a little bit of a rant there, but that's why I'm a chart guy. I try to avoid speeches. I avoid basically any sort of fundamental, any news. I try and avoid listening to it because I just think it's a way for me to misunderstand something and misanalyze something else. Right? I think it's a lot easier to analyze charts, a few colorful lines, rather than the whole global economy, is basically my thoughts. But yeah, I just basically wanted to do a shorter update today because yesterday we were, I was warning about this bearish action here. So nice to see that it has played out. I've done well on my shorts over the last 24 hours. I did end up getting out of the position that I was in during the stream last night. But like I said, I was just going to be trying to enter more shorts because I just had a feeling that we were going to be nuking soon. And that absolutely happened. You can see here, I do have this purple line here as well, just to explain both my positions here. So my short is actually only from here at this point at 61,342. That is because I have significantly lowered my entry from adding into my position. It's basically an active position because, like I said, I'm more of a scalper. I'm more of an active trader myself. But I was in this short since we were up at around 63K or something like that. Or where were we? I think it was just over 62K. I think it was with this lower sell signal here. I started looking for shorts again. I can't remember exactly where, but on the way, I've been taking profits. I've been re-adding to positions. And basically my average entry for the short now is at this level at 61,342. This purple line here, this is actually a hedge long that I took. We're going to see what happens. I personally hope that it loses. I would rather see my short carry on to the downside. But because, for one, the short is much larger than my long, because I don't want this long to be confused with me being bullish. I am not bullish right now. This is more of an insurance play. Because I see the possibility of a short-term bounce here, and that might get me out of my short, in which case I do want a little bit of a long position running. And my reasoning for taking this long was just with this indicator, right? This ALGO master indicator that I've been talking about a lot recently. Right, basically just I don't know, half hour ago or so, we ended up printing this higher buy signal. And we still have conflicting stories because we still have lower setting sell signals, but this is just a warning to me that the trend may be shifting. And then after that, we started printing these demand zones. Notice that's the indicator doing that. Those are not my boxes or anything, but they're starting to overlap. So you're starting to see a lot of demand in this zone. Which is what led me to take a little bit of a hedge long. And if we drop these green boxes, basically we drop below, what is my stop loss? Let me just check here. 60,518 is the stop loss on that hedge long. And if we drop this demand zone, basically I lose faith in my position, and I would rather I'd cut my losses quickly on that one, let the short take over. I do think it's possible we drop a little bit lower and find support again. Anyone who's desperate for a long position, You know, just from this trend here, we could technically still be in play for a Stuber fib, which would actually give us a further move to the downside before a recovery. So I'd be looking at basically something like this, going back to the 786, 886, and looking for a scalp up towards that 214. But again, guys, I'm just not that bullish right now. I would maybe consider taking a small hedge again on something like that, but I am not bullish. I don't know. I think this 4 hour has room to the downside, and I think it's absolutely. I think personally, the way I'm looking at it, I think we're heading down to the 786, right around that 55.6, 55.5, somewhere in there. I really have a feeling we're on our way there. But it is absolutely possible that we get some sort of a short-term recovery, right? Since this is the 4 hour, it could take some time to play out. But even if we get a little dead cat bounce, just retest some of this resistance here, for example, I think it actually makes sense that it would take a while to get there. But being there's war escalations and all that stuff that I was already talking about, that could really speed things up. So I just, again, I'm not trading the fundamentals specifically, but I'm open to the idea of, hey, the chart structure backs up these theories. Not only that, but I've been predicting this chart to basically play out this way well ahead of time. So to have those fundamentals lining up with that, I think it makes a lot of sense that we come down lower. How is everyone else feeling about the markets? Extra bullish, extra bearish, cycle flitter. Nice. Welcome. Yeah, I see you've been busy lately. Just kind of catching up on the chat here a little bit, you guys. Yeah, again, just looking at what I was looking at there. Yeah, I'm going to lose faith if we drop this demand zone. So I don't know for sure if I'm going to take this Stuber fib bounce or not yet. I want to see how it reacts with that if we get there. For now, I would really like to see, especially that we have this, higher buy signal and another higher buy signal. If we start losing that trend, I'm just going to lose all faith in the bulls once again. And I think the bears just have full control at that point. But yeah, just a way that I'm using these indicators to not only find entries, but I also did pay myself a little bit on my short because of this higher buy signal. So I use them as risk management, paying myself, entering, hedging, all that sort of stuff. That's kind of some different ways that I use these indicators. If these indicators do interest you, there is a link down below for the MDX ALGO indicators. Gives you an additional 10% discount on top of current promotions at checkout. I've been using these signals for about 2 years now, I think it is. Absolutely love them. I use them religiously every single day. I'm still, when I do my trading, I always think that it's most important to have a good understanding of structure and stuff like that, your basics. But on top of that, having these tools as a second opinion kind of a thing, just absolutely phenomenal. Just catching things, because, I would absolutely be tempted to, just continue shorting absolutely everything. Basically moving forward because of that 4-hour chart. But I'm just open to the ideas of de-risking myself, paying myself, hedging against my position and stuff like that because of these indicators. And it's just, it's really nice having that peace of mind, right? Just having that second opinion, having another set of eyes on the market, just in case. Take some stress out of the game. Trading stressful enough. Let's get some tunes going here again. I like getting the tunes going when we're here hanging out. And then I'll catch up on some messages here. I think we need a little more upbeat, hey? Find something nice here. Something that screams degen, There we go. The degen vibes. Let me know if the music's too loud or You want it louder or anything like that? Hey, I see someone talking about Bitcoin at 25K again. Um, you're I don't have a lot of people who want to hear that, and not many people are willing to accept that it's even a possibility. But I know a lot of you here know my opinion about this, that if this was any other time frame other than a weekly chart, if I was looking at that Stuber fib setup, I'd have my range target, yes, but the full swing target is way down here. If we end up losing this low, that's where I'm thinking, yes, we do have this range of support here, and I absolutely think we would get some sort of a bounce, but I think it would be a lower high, and then we would get some sort of a flash crash much lower. But obviously there's a lot of what ifs between now and then. But if this was any other time frame chart, I would be looking for a pullback to that 786, 886. You guys know I won't shut the hell up about those levels on my charts. And that is around 28K down to 22K. And before you say that can't happen, it happened last market cycle. Yeah, sure, that was COVID. Yeah, maybe that time was different. Or maybe the charts were just there. We lost this structure, and then we went and retested the 786, 886, just like I'd expect on a 5-minute or a 1-minute or a 4-hour chart. So you see it happen all the time. Back here, same thing. Yeah, it was a different time, but when you go from this cycle bottom to this cycle top, look where we end up getting down to, the 786, 886. So don't say it can't happen, because I've been in crypto for a while. I've seen a couple bear markets, and the kind of volatility we've seen so far is nothing compared to how volatile I have seen Bitcoin. Even this full move from our top to our bottom, what is this? That's a 32% correction to the downside. It's absolutely possible we see a bigger one. Not saying it's probable or it has to happen or anything like that, but obviously, like back here, it's over 70% correction. We had the same RSI signals. I've talked about that in previous videos, but the same RSI divergence. We do have this potential breakout, but if the RSI does lose this level again, I think it's just a further indication that basically the RSI breaking this downtrend is the only thing bullish that I can find on the weekly chart. So yeah, it's a bullish sign right there, but you don't want to choose to ignore 5 bearish signals just because the one fits your bias, right? So there's just a lot of reasons to be cautious right now. I'm personally hoping this long gets stopped out, because I want to continue to the downside. First of all, the downside, it moves faster generally. Bears, I think it's typically they move like 3 times faster than bulls. So that's always fun. And also, just making money to the downside just has a special feel to it. Anybody can buy and hold and win in a bull market, but how many people can actually trade a bear market, for example? That's something you want to be able to do, because no matter how high this bull market does end up going, remember that there will be bear markets. There will be another one. I strongly think that there will be a bear market that starts sometime next year. I don't think that it's quite yet, but I'm open to the idea of a bear market size move as a final flush kind of a thing. Because a lot of people are thinking that there's a misconception, at least in my opinion. I don't know, I could be wrong, but the way I'm looking at things, a lot of people are expecting BlackRock and all these companies and all these ETFs and everything to really pump the price of Bitcoin, but they're generally seen as smart money. They're very wealthy. They have a ton of money. Do you think they made that money by FOMOing into breakouts? Or do you think that, no, they push prices, they push assets towards the prices they want to buy it, and then they let us take control and push their bags? That's more so how a market cycle works. So I personally think the quicker people panic sell, I know a lot of people are mad at people who are bearish or people who are selling. Honestly, if you want to be bullish, in my opinion, I want to see everybody panic sell so that those bigger players with deeper pockets can get the prices that they want. Because the sooner that happens, the sooner we can carry on and go parabolic. That's kind of my 2 cents on the whole thing. Take it for what it is. Like I said, I'm not a fundamental guy. I don't follow what they're doing with their assets or anything like that. That's just a little bit of logic to me, is that why would they get rich by pumping retail bags? That's generally not how they invest. They have a lot more purchasing power and they have a lot more patience. It's actually insane how bullish people got at this resistance. And honestly, I was even falling into that a little bit. I will fully admit I thought it looked more bullish than it has previous swings. But I did warn basically that that would happen. And I was saying that from down here. When we bottomed out down here, I said that if we get up to that macro resistance, people are going to get extremely bullish and start FOMOing into the top again. Just like right here. Like I was talking about, Trump was giving his super bullish speech on crypto right there. Everyone was FOMOing into that resistance so hard on that one specifically. And the same thing here. But again, bring up one of my other favorite indicators here, liquidations. Notice that we basically, so all these bars are 50 and 100x leverage liquidations. And you can see that as we came down, grab all this liquidity to the downside. As soon as we get right to the bottom of the liquidity levels, we start going to the upside and grabbing all of these levels. We basically grabbed all of it, and then a whole bunch started opening up to the downside again. And notice that that liquidity lines up basically with my 786, 886 fib pocket. So just a little additional confluence there. And I was talking about that in yesterday's stream, why I thought that, you know, it's actually looking like it would make a lot of sense for the market maker to push it to the downside from here. And I still think there's room to the downside now, whether we take a little bounce and then go back down, or we just go straight there. It's hard to say, but I can't help the feeling that we're going down lower. Alts will be crushed. Yeah, actually, Solana's one I was talking about yesterday, and I had mentioned that it was looking not too bad, but it was technically at resistance. And I also mentioned it obviously largely depends what happens with Bitcoin, but everything's getting punished, obviously. Yeah, this liquidations indicator is great to have on the back of your mind. Having this on the 4 hour just to see, you know, I just have the highest liquidation or the highest leverage positions because it makes more sense. The market maker can push it there quickest, basically. It's going to be the most reactive kind of a thing. And I don't enter trades specifically based on this. But again, it's one of those things, you know, we had the structure break, like I was talking about yesterday. We had a whole bunch of liquidity to the downside. It just made a lot of sense that we would go to the downside. So very cool indicator to have in the arsenal there as well. There's a whole slew. Like I only use a handful of the MDX ALGO indicators, but there's a whole pile of them. I just like to keep my trading quite simple. So there's only a few that I've kind of come up with my own strategies. But yeah, just beautiful indicators. So many handy tools. Cycle flitter, dump it. Absolutely. Would I consider, let's say we go down and wick to about 51, but close 50 above 54 on the 4 hour. Where's 51? So if we hit 51 and close above 54, honestly, I don't know how I feel because I wouldn't consider it a lower low because the lower low is actually back here. The lower low is at about 49K for my 4 hour chart. So the range I'm looking at is basically 49K is the bottom of my range and 70K is the top of my range currently. So if we did end up dropping to, let's say, 51, I mean, technically with the full range here, that would be right in the middle of my macro super fibs there. The only reason I don't have, I'm not considering this an actual Stuber fib, is because we haven't broke a lower high first before getting this pullback. And that's like I was showing on the bearish side, right? It was whenever we got a lower low that I would pull the Fibonacci and look for this rejection. Right now, since we haven't broke that lower high structure, it's not an actual Stuber fib. It is technically a 786, 886 fib box, which, yes, they get respected quite often, don't get me wrong, but it's just not my ideal setup. So technically, since we are still in this kind of bigger range, I wouldn't consider it a lower low if we drop this. I think it's a big sign of weakness, but we are still very much within support at that point, you know? But the trend looks bad. I don't know. There's no way for me to say otherwise. I've been quite vocal about this, like I said, since June, when I noticed that, hey, we were getting a very serious structure change, even on the weekly, setting Stuber fibs on the weekly. That's a very serious bearish warning to me. The monthly chart, I just always see it in the corner of my eye when I go to check the long shorts. The monthly is the one that's still giving me a little bit of hope that, hey, technically we might have just found support basically on top of these candle bodies from last market cycle. Again, that's reaching a little bit. That's ignoring a lot of bearish signs just to find one bullish sign, but it is a bullish sign. I'll give it that. And another thing is retail is approximately only 56% long. Quite often when we see these nukes, we'll see retail long levels at like 70, 75, 78% long, just providing that fuel to the downside. But whether or not retail is actually shorting quite a bit right now, we still have those liquidations, right? There still is a lot of liquidity down here. So I think if we bounce from here, I think it'll be a dead cat bounce. And I think we still go lower, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, like even for being we changed to upward trending buy signals, they're just having a hard time catching any momentum here. But it is what it is until it's broken. Still seeing these overlapping demand boxes. So we drop that. I'm out of my long and I'm just sticking to the short game at that point. Oh, yes, I could trace a line on the 4 hour from the, yeah, I actually had this mapped out the other day on my own chart, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Something like that. Absolutely a possibility. And you know, something that I like to do with something like this is I'm a big fan. So I don't set blind orders. Like I'm not just going to set a long off of this level. I would want to see how we react with that level. But something I would love to see, and I'm going to set an alert to go once per minute. BTC diagonal support. Once per minute. Yes. So at that point, if we end up testing this trend line, I want to see what happens. And if we get some sort of a drop below and just reclaim it right away on like a 5-minute chart, for example, even a 1-minute chart, I would strongly consider long in that. just because if that's the third touch point and it tries to break out, but then basically flips back again, like if it doesn't respect flipping this old support into resistance, if it's just turning into support again, this just looks like a liquidity grab to me, a little bit of a fake out. And in that case, I'd be looking at some sort of a scalp long. Actually, in that case, it might not even be a scalp. I treat every trade as a scalp. Like I said yesterday, I'm quick to close the first quarter and then half of my position. And then I like to leave the second half run, trying to catch a swing with it more so. But yeah, that looks like a level I'd be interested in. If we just end up breaking it right away, I don't necessarily consider that a bearish break because there wasn't even a third test. If we test it perfectly a third time and then break to the downside, I would actually increase my bearish bias, and I'd be expecting something like that. But there's a lot of what ifs between now and then. But I assume that's the line you're talking about, and I agree that that's worth watching at the very least. And then I would probably actually make it into some sort of a wedge or a pennant. Actually, yeah, I would like to leave a pennant on my screen. Something like that. I will also add an alert. There. Now, if we test either side of that pennant, I can at least take a look. I don't like breakout trading myself unless I get a third touch point before the breakout. So either one of these lines, I would need to see another perfect touch point. If it changes at all, like wicks past it or anything like that, I actually change my trend line and I don't consider this exact one. It's just me being picky with breakout trading. I know a lot of people use trend lines for averages or candle bodies, whatever. This is just how I like to look for patterns. Is I like to see 3 exact wick touches to whatever trend line that I'm looking to play a breakout afterwards, kind of a thing. So I'm interested in these lines. I'm just not setting orders on them. The 4 bulls are stunned. Yeah, no kidding. Oh, I know this caught a lot of people off guard, but again, guys, we had the exact same swing setup. Let me just make that yellow. We had the exact same setup so far. Lower low, test the Stuber fib, reject. Lower low, test the Stuber fib, reject. Lower low, test the Stuber fib, reject. We'll see if this sets us a lower low or not. If it does, that could be very bad for Bitcoin. Let's talk about if that does happen, because, you know, the one thing is there is a little bit of trading action back at these levels. I'd even say go to the bottom of this range. Well, actually, no, I like the candle bodies more. So basically, there was a lot of trading action on the way to the upside during that so far the bullish trend. This is really the only level that separates us from the macro Stuber fibs. Here's the thing. I totally understand why a lot of people think that we will set our bottom at this level. The thing is, so often, if we drop that far, like that far past the existing or past the 214 and significantly further in this case, especially if we drop to this level, I really don't see why we wouldn't get some sort of a flash panic crash down, or even honestly even grind down, maybe have a bounce and then do something like that. just on shorter time frames, and this is all theoretical at this point, but on shorter time frames, whenever I notice that, a big range has, gone, let's say, halfway back down, that there's a very good chance we're going all the way to the 786, if not even further to the 886. So yeah, it's absolutely possible. There was some structure built here. So absolutely, it's possible that we get. I do think we would get some sort of a strong reaction, if nothing else. But I'm not sure if it's going to hold for the long term. But I'd be happy if it did. That ranges from basically, let's call it 44K down towards 40K. There's some nice trading action there. Because the thing is, guys, if we lose that level, generally speaking, we didn't have much trading on the way up, right? We had this ranging, we had this ranging, we had this ranging, but notice this massive gap here where nothing really happened. If we lose this range support here, where I have that green box, it's a straight shot down towards that 786. And generally speaking, if you just have a straight shot up, you get the exact opposite move on the opposite end of things if you're going through the same range. There was just no interest in this range for having a serious pause. And I assume on the downside would be the exact same thing. I know people don't want to accept the fact that those levels are even possible. And they feel silly even for me to say. I want to be clear about that. So understand that I also feel like we won't hit those levels. Because it feels ridiculous, but just understand that crypto and the markets do not give a shit about our feelings, and it'll do what it damn well wants, and we're just in it for the ride. Anything can happen. No matter how sure you are about something, always understand what worst case scenario is. I drew exactly what you meant. Yeah, as soon as I read that, I knew exactly what you were talking about. Because like I said, I had just mapped that out. I think it was yesterday. Not on the channel, by the way, just like on my own. Because I do like looking at pennants and stuff as well. I used to mostly trade pennants. I more so like I mostly like Fibonacci's and horizontal structure at this point. But yeah, I used to trade pennants a lot. But again, I only accept them as being even possibly valid if there's at least 3 touch points before they break out. That's just a little rule that I have because I've back tested it. And but obviously, everyone has their own trading strategies. We could have the same trend lines, the same indicators. We trade the market completely different. So always understand. You'd always do back testing and stuff, right? Before you're going to put real money on a trading strategy, for example, do some back testing, use the replay feature on Tradingview and just kind of find out what your probabilities are. Have a structured system in place that, yeah, this would have been my entry, this would be my take profit, and then hit play and see if it plays out, right? Yeah, back in 2021, there was a lot of trading in this range, but this cycle it really wasn't. And I shouldn't say there wasn't a lot because obviously this was a couple of months. It just wasn't really ranging, right? It was just straight green candles. Recent price action is always more important, in my opinion, than like previous cycle price action. But you're right, there is some structure there. But notice that the bottom of that range basically lines up with the top of this range here. So even if we were going to respect all this trading here, we'd probably end up getting to the bottom of it, which is still very close to the 786. Front run a little bit, but pretty close. Yeah, I just want to babysit this 1 minute chart for a little bit here, see what happens with this, see if my hedge does end up giving up and then carry on with my short position, or see if we do actually take off to the upside. Let's find out. I'll stick around for a little bit. I don't have too much time here, but I'll babysit this trade for a little bit here. Do we get a small pullback from 60.8, like the little one we just kind of, or do you mean bouncing there? Um, I don't know. I think we see further downside, but obviously with these upward trending buy signals and stuff like that, and all this demand zone here, I'm open to the idea of us bouncing from here for a little bit. That's why I took this little hedge long. But I'm by no means bullish. I want to be very clear about that. I am quite bearish. It's just that I'm protecting myself just in case we do blast off to the upside with these higher trending buy signals here. But yeah, even this hedge long, it's let me just double check here. A fifth the size of my short. So yeah, I'm still bearish. This is just an insurance long. Just in case this turns into a trend, basically. If we lose this buy trend, I mentioned this earlier in the video, but there is the possibility we'd come down and test that super fib as well. Again, I'm not really going to be bullish, but I would also consider trying a hedge down there. Like if this wasn't a hedge, if it was just a scalp, since we're hitting that sell line, I'd already be looking at taking profits on a quarter of my position. But since it's just a little hedge, I'm not as interested. This week there are multiple macro events from Jay Powell's speech and wars that keeps BTC down. Yeah, but that being said, again, I personally don't give too much weight to the fundamentals. Like, yes, they're happening, I guess, but again, like I was kind of talking about this price action happening ahead of time without ever considering anything like that. It is nice when the fundamental stuff does line up with the technicals. It makes it that much easier. But overall, ever since, where was the first time this happened? In May was the first time we started this type of a trend, basically. Actually, technically, we broke the uptrend up here back in March. Really confirmed it at the start of May. That was our first very obvious lower low. And ever since May, we've just been setting bearish Stuber fibs. Yeah, in my opinion, this doesn't look great. Support is support until it's broken, but we even have this Keltner band starting to really brighten up red here, just showing some extra resistance. Like, quite honestly, I am tempted to cut this at basically break even, because I just don't think the bulls are going to gain any momentum. The only thing holding me in this, even though it's just a little long, the only thing holding me in is these higher trending buy signals as a just in case. Just in case this demand zone is going to hold, but I personally don't think it will. I think my short is going to continue running. But again, insurance play, just covering my bases, right? So that's the thing as traders, we never know for sure what's going to happen. You just kind of weigh out your probabilities, weigh out your odds, and just kind of protect yourself. The market's mean. You got to protect yourself. But actually, what I was just talking about before as well, notice that since we have dropped, you know what? I know this is a bit flip-floppy. I am cutting my long right now. I just don't have faith in my bullish play right now. I'll take my minus 2%. I don't like to flip-flop like that. I can't shake my bearish feeling right now with how everything looks and with the fundamentals lining up with things. I just can't be too bullish right now. And what I was talking about earlier was that since we've dropped so low into this range already, I think it's quite likely that we end up coming down to these levels, which would be around 60.3, basically 63.33. I think it's quite likely we come back down to those levels. Approach a hedge, different time frames. So basically with a hedge, I would be looking at, if I'm in a decent short from up higher and I see reasons for why we could be bouncing, then I'm going to look at entering a bit of hedge long. And in my case, since I am still quite bearish myself, I have my hedge long significantly smaller than my short, just because I am leaning more to the bearish side. But basically, the way I was looking at it is, if we do just blast off through here and the rest of my short ends up getting stopped out, then I wanted a bit of a long position still in play. So, and when it comes to hedging, a lot of people do something seriously wrong by just opening a long and a short at the same time. That's not so much how I'm looking at it. I'm more so, since I'm short from way up here, if we are going to drop back down here, let me get rid of this. At this point, I'm more so interested, just because I re-looked at these fibs and stuff, I'm only interested in hedging along if we get down towards these levels at this point. I'm okay if we just take off. Then yeah, I guess I will get stopped out of the rest of my short and I'll lock in the rest of my profits, whatever. And then I'll be out of a position and have to find something else. But I think that there's absolutely the possibility that eventually we come down to the 786, 886. I would like it to go down anyways. Obviously, the market doesn't give a shit what I think, but yeah, I'd consider doing a long hedge down at 60.3. I actually think it'll be closer. I might wait and see if it gets towards the 886, just because of how this order block went here right before we ended up reversing. That is only the 1 minute. Let me check a different time frame. Even something like this. The 3 minute, that would be very close to the 786, but the 1 minute, I don't know. I have a feeling that will come down towards the 886. So just to tighten up my risk, and since I'm not comfortable with longs right now, I might try and tighten that up. Might also have something like that as far as a potential short setup. Another higher buy signal. Interesting. They're definitely trending to the upside. Yeah, if we get down to the 786, the bullish one down at about 60.3, I'll probably end up closing. Actually, I should set another order for that. Thanks for reminding me. I'm gonna set take profit for half, not half. Sorry, a quarter of my remaining position. So not a quarter of the beginning position, but a quarter of what I currently have running still. Um, and that'll be around three. Where should I go? I always front run my fibs a little bit, so I'll probably go 63.77 will be a partial take profit. Let me set that right now. Can I explain again how I hedge? So basically, I'm already in a short, so I'm already in a nice running position with a stop loss and a profit and all that sort of stuff. So basically, if we end up getting down to the levels that I would like to take profits, basically, don't even think of this as an entry or a take profit level. Think of this as, since it's a bullish Stuber fib type of setup, this is a buy level. So whether that's buying some out of my short or buying some long, right? So basically, since I'm already in a nice short, if we get down there, then I want to also open a long because I'm just looking at it as a buy level. So I'm taking some profits off my short, and then I'm going to look to enter a bit of a long, so that if we do end up bouncing, then at that point, both of my positions are in a profit at that point, and I can kind of decide which one I want to cut loose at a later time. I can nibble profits off them as they go. I can basically do whatever, and at that point, it's very stress-free. Just understand, if you're opening up yourself to risk in both directions, you can obviously lose money twice as fast. So like opening a short and a long at the same time and then having stop losses on both, it's very possible that they both get wicked out, so you don't even catch one winner, right? So understand that hedging can be done quite wrong. So I'm just basically looking at, hey, if this is a level that I would typically like to long, as far as a Stuber fib setup, that is a classic Stuber entry where I would like to go long, because we had our structure break, followed by eventually a pullback if we get it. Obviously doesn't have to happen. But since I typically like going long there, if I'm already in a short, I'm just going to open a long position anyways. Even though I'm extra bearish on the longer time frame, that's basically why my hedge long would be a smaller position, but I would still want something in there just in case, because it's just a typical trade setup that I love to play, right? That's basically what it comes down to. If that's a systematic trade strategy that I do, which is trading those fibs, then at that point, this is no different. Just because I'm in a short doesn't mean that I can't take that long, basically. What's my take on CME Group announcing the launch of Bitcoin futures on Friday? Hasn't Bitcoin futures been a thing for a long? Are you talking about ETF futures by chance? Either way, I haven't followed it at all. All the only thing I know about Bitcoin futures trading is that everybody got very bullish on the fact that CME was launching futures on Bitcoin right here. Everybody got very excited, and that was supposed to send us even more parabolic, even though we were already parabolic. And that was a perfect market cycle top. So just understand that big players coming in and being able to use leverage and stuff like that doesn't mean that that leverage needs to go to the upside. If anything, it would be, and this is in my opinion anyways, easier for them to push the price down to the levels that they want to buy it at. But that's one of those things where you can try and analyze something like that, and honestly, I don't know how the market would react to it. So I'd rather just wait and see. if all of a sudden there's a big bearish breakout after that happens, okay, maybe there's a chance that that is something that's big and going to affect us, and they are going to hammer the crap out of the price, kind of a thing. But that's all theoretical. That's why I just stick to charts, because there's I find trend lines and Fibonacci's easier to understand than the whole global economy. I just think there's too many places you can make a mistake, or think that you know how something's going to affect the price of things and then just overlook something, right? Like with COVID, for example. Yes, now we know that the money printer turned on, and that's a big reason why we went parabolic last cycle. But at first we didn't know that, right? Everyone was thinking, well, how if nobody can work and nobody can afford food or fuel or anything like that, it makes no sense that people would hold on to Bitcoin. But then the money printer turned on and it went absolutely parabolic. So just a way that, a lot of people were misunderstanding it. Things don't always play out the way that you're expecting them to, right? Just always understand that you may not be correct, no matter how sure you are on something. That's kind of the way I approach it. We are going up into that. Was that the 5 minute? Or that was just the high of this range? Yeah, we might break out to the upside here. Who knows? But we are at that Stuber fib now. Time to be cautious either way, basically. Resistance is resistance until it's broke. But understand that it is a little riskier if you did want to short here because of these higher trending buy signals, right? Oop. What if I was looking, or if I was in a short like now, but the price rebounds into my stop loss zones, which is also a sell zone? Would you be looking to enter another short again as it falls out? Yeah, I guess that's a loaded question. It depends on the scenario, but absolutely open to the idea. Like yesterday, actually, after the stream, I had mentioned that if the rest of my short got stopped out, I was still going to be looking for more shorts, basically going into the evening. Just like tonight, basically. If if we break out above my basically right above 61.3k, if we break above that, I'm gonna close the rest of my short position at that point, and I'm just gonna look for a new reason to enter short. Basically, we lose some sort of a higher low structure on a short time frame like this or something like that. I would just be looking at, basically, I'm looking for excuses to go short at this point. Guys, I am getting very hungry, so I think I'm gonna take off. Actually, I kind of want to see if we break out of this resistance zone or if it does reject us here, just for my own curiosity. There is some strength there. I should have taken these higher buy signals a little more serious, hey? Well, just because I paper hands my long doesn't mean the indicator didn't nail it, because it absolutely got this beautiful higher trending buy signals. Yeah, that was beautiful. Beautiful scalp right up to, like, if you would have taken a long there, for example, I would be looking at least taking some profits at these levels, because we're obviously at resistance now. It does look pretty strong, the fact that we have this very steep climbing buy trend here. It does kind of look like we're going to break out, but just understand that we are at resistance, right? So I myself, especially trading the 1 minute, like if I'm in a position, for example, I mean, I like to start paying myself pretty quick. Where do I see the bounce going? Honestly, I don't know. The highest I see it going, well, technically we could get a smaller Stuber fib here on the 4 hour, which would take us all the way up towards 65.8K. Absolutely a possibility. I don't necessarily think we're going to get that, but understand that the structure is there, right? I think it's a lot more likely that we would bounce to the underside of this diagonal trend line here. We respected it 3 or 4 times here from the upside as support. So now to see it flip into resistance around 62.8, 62.9, call it 63K, somewhere in there. The lower high right there, just on this very immediate downswing here, would be at around 64K. So no matter how Bitcoin bounces here, it's got a lot of work to do if it wants to recover, basically. There's a lot of resistance levels happening. Indicator just printed a TP1 off of this buy signal. So that's just another thing, right? A TP signal, we're at resistance, just time to pump the brakes a little bit, basically. Yes, this is a paid indicator. These are the MDX ALGO indicators. There is a whole whack of them here. Beautiful indicators. I only use a small handful of them. But there is a link down below that gives an additional 10% discount on top of current promotions at checkout if that is something that interests you. I've been using these indicators every day for, I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 years now. I just remember it was July. But I use these indicators every single day. The only other indicator I really use is the RSI, because there's a very specific divergence I look at with the RSI. But other than that, these are the only indicators I use. They're just so beautiful. They look good. They feel good. They're just so customizable. There's so many ways that you can set this up to fit how you like to trade and whatnot. Absolutely love them. See if this buy trend can hold or not. For my sake, I like that we lost the 786, 886, but the fact that we still have these higher trending buy signals, you know, there's a couple things working against me right now, but I just think that that longer time frame, I just can't shake the feeling that we could see lower. So I think there's a bigger move looming to the downside than to the upside right now, basically. Even if we get a short-term move to the upside, I just really don't see us going parabolic anytime soon. That's just my opinion. It's been a gut feeling for a couple months now. If you guys do appreciate these streams, by the way, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I was away a lot this month, out of the country and stuff, so I haven't been streaming a lot lately, but trying to get back on track here, back home for a little bit. So yeah, gonna try and do quite a few streams on the Financial Summit here as well. You'll have my personal socials down below in the links for my YouTube channel, Twitter, and all that sort of stuff as well. And by the way, guys, thanks so much for joining me for these streams. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing them if there was nobody here with me. So always appreciate you guys. I love looking at things you guys are looking at. You know, if there's things you want me to look at in the charts, it just helps me kind of second guess my own opinions, kind of look at things differently and that sort of stuff. So I truly do appreciate all the comments and stuff. Even if we disagree, understand I am not the kind of guy who's like just, oh, if you're looking at this a different way than me, you're wrong. No, that's not at all how this works. For one, like, for all I know, there's people out there who are scalping the long side on the entire nuke to the downside, and they might be out trading me. Like, who knows, right? Everyone has their own trading strategies that work for them. And that's basically all there is to it. So I like hearing other opinions. I don't want to get sucked into an echo chamber. Like, when you start looking at Twitter and stuff like that, so many people, it's actually frowned upon to even mention being bearish. I mean, that's exactly, you know, last market cycle at the all-time highs. You know, there was also people telling you not to be bearish and it's dumb to be bearish. But understand, markets don't go one direction, right? They chop around, they bounce around. So as traders, it's totally okay to be bearish from time to time, just like it's okay to be bullish from time to time. I love being a moon boy. I was a moon boy for basically the last year and a half or so. And just unfortunately, there's a time where I got to pump the brakes and look at the market for what it is. Yeah, exactly. Traders love moves in both directions. I know a lot of people just kind of want the market to go straight up as more of a lottery ticket kind of a thing. But as actual traders, and I assume that a lot of you guys who are with me are here because you're traders. That's why you're willing to look at charts and learn things about the charts and talk about charts and all that sort of thing. I'm guessing you're most likely traders. Well, if you're actually a trader, you should not care which way the market moves, because at the end of the day, all that matters is percentage swings. How far is it swinging? If you can catch some percentages in there, that's really all that matters. And the market's been volatile as hell lately, and I'm absolutely loving it. I do not care which way it goes. I don't care. Bitcoin could go down to $20,000 and I would not care at all. I haven't felt this relaxed in the market for a long time as I have the last few months, because I've had no FOMO in this range. I have not felt like all-time highs are around the corner. Yeah, exactly. Being able to look at the market both directions, it sets you free, honestly. I remember I started trading. I say this quite often. Um, you want to know where I started trading? I started trading, I think it was right about here is where I started trading. And when I traded enough, I so the way I started trading was just spot accumulation. I called it coin collecting. So basically, I wasn't trading with leverage. I didn't care about the dollar amount. I started small. I understood that I was going to suck at trading as I start. I was just looking at trying to sell coins and buy them back cheaper. It didn't matter what kind of shit coin it was. I was just trying to collect, right? So that's basically how I learned how to trade in the bear market. I wasn't making money, but I was learning how to trade. When we started forming this big ass descending triangle here, I knew I needed to learn how to short because there was a big juicy one lining up for me. And that was the first short I ever took in my life. I believe was from around 57K. It was basically playing this breakout here and shorted the shit out of it down. It was, to this day, probably the best, one of the best trades I've made in my life was my first one, or was my first short. And that's because I was so ready for it and I had to research it. Back then, there was not near as many exchanges as there is now. We were very limited. There wasn't a bunch of phone apps and stuff like that. So it was a different game. And I just I knew that I had to figure out how to short because I saw that coming. And that's kind of the moment where it changed how I look at everything with charts and with trading and with assets and everything, because it didn't matter anymore. It was by no means my biggest trade. I want to be clear about that. It was just, it was my best one, in my opinion. Caught the whole second half of a bear market really quickly there. We only keep the hodl in Bitcoin. Yeah, exactly. Hey, can I borrow your brain for a few days so I can teach my brain? Hey, I'll be here more. I'll keep teaching. You keep asking, I'll keep answering. Learned the game first. Yeah, exactly. And honestly, the reason I went to coin collecting rather than, trading leverage and stuff was because it was so easy to detach emotions when you had no dollar attachment to it. I was just playing with whatever small amounts of altcoins and just, hey, can I grow these? Yes. Okay, I know how to trade now. So now I'm just gonna look at dollars instead of these coins, basically. Yeah, Asia market opens in about 5 minutes. So far, so good with that resistance holding. Basically a double top here. The 1 minute, there is a bit of an early warning sign that one thing about this is that we did break this lower high very quickly, and we have even set this higher low signal here on the auto charting tools. So there is that to consider. See, even that sell signal, it's a higher sell signal. So it's actually, I give it a little less credit when it does that. I like to see them basically trending a certain direction. And right now the sell signals and the buy signals are trending to the upside. So it's still very possible that Bitcoin does break this resistance here, but we'll see. At what level would I feel comfortable doing a 5x leverage long trade on BTC? A long-term hold for the rest of the bull market, a big banger of a trade. That's a loaded question because Man, I would have a hard time holding on to a position for an entire an entire bull market. Um, Basically, I don't have any levels right now that I would be comfortable just YOLOing a 5x long and just leaving it. Because the thing is, if we do end up hitting some of these levels down at where I'm talking about, if we do end up getting a move down to the Stuber fibs, again, this does not have to happen. I don't even think it will happen, but it has happened in the past and it can happen again. That's over a 60% move to the downside. That is easy liquidation if that were to happen. Even at the 786 down past the 886, like that's the thing. Even going from that 786 with a 5x long could very easily get liquidated. I'd be more into the kind of thing. I don't know. I'm very much a reactive trader, is the thing, right? Being able to react is so much more important than being able to predict. So I'd more so be looking at, if the weekly breaks that structure that I've been talking about, or even the 4 hour, if we break this lower high signal here, or not signal, just what I printed there. If we break this lower high at 70K, I'm at least open to the idea that we can be carrying on with our bull market. We still do have a little bit of resistance after that, but at least my structure has changed at that point, which it has not done since March. So I more so want to see that break, and then I'd be looking for shorter time frames, looking for a structure break as well. So in that case, I'd be more so open to the idea of being bullish, but I still can't really say if it would be a 5x and leave it go for the entire cycle, because honestly, most people probably should be trading with like 5x leverage on a normal type of trade setup. I trade with like 69x and shit like that just because I'm a total degenerate, but I understand what my risk is and all that sort of stuff. It's just such a loaded question because we all have our own trading strategies, right? So for me to say I would go at this level, yes, but I would have my invalidations where if the chart acts a certain way moving forwards, it's going to totally change everything. And I'm not just going to hang on to it because I said I was going to. Things have changed and therefore my opinion has to change. So that's a loaded question that I don't really have an answer to. I know I rambled for a while. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Basically what to take out of that: reacting over predicting. So right now I don't want to predict a random level and throw a long attempt out there. I would rather wait and get some sort of reaction, something that catches my eye, in which case I can make the trade idea or the setup then. Asia market should be open. We're still holding that fib box as resistance. What's the daily damage? Ooh, that is a rough looking daily candle, you guys. We absolutely dumped past those daily candle bodies. Yeah, I truly think lower prices are on the way. Yes, it would absolutely make sense to get some sort of a wick and fill most of the candle and, retest that old support as new resistance and then continue to the downside. Absolutely possible. Just things don't look good to me right now. Even if we bounce, I personally think it'll be short-lived. I know I was talking about one of my favorite strategies with these indicators is using the auto charting tools. That's these lower highs, lower lows, all those pivots there. I know I've mentioned in pretty much every stream that I like pulling Fibonacci's from there. And just here's a perfect example. Just look at this beautiful trend and how well this strategy actually did play out. Get a lower high signal print, chase the price with the fibs. Boom, look at that, 786, 886 fib pocket, rejection, boom, nice little scalp there. Where's the next one here? Next one, lower high signal here. I don't know if we would have actually got it quite. No, never quite got that one, so kibosh that. This guy right here looks like it was a beautiful setup there. Boom, entry in the 786, 886, carries on to the downside. This one looks like it never played out either, not quite. This one also never did end up playing out. Well, just because we never got our re-entry on it. This one actually would have failed. It looks actually, even that one, if I zoom right in, pull a fib, chase the price. Notice we basically get back to that 786. Front run very slightly, but we do end up getting down to that 214. Yes, it's a very small range. That's a tight profit taking kind of thing, but just to show you how those signals can line up with those with pulling Fibonacci's and that sort of thing. Curious if this one did play out actually. Yeah, that one played out too. Just a bit of a life hack when looking for Fibonacci's. My margin limit per trade, 0.1 BTC. Yeah, everyone's different, right? Just understand, don't go crazy with risk and leverage and going way too heavily into positions. Understand that you need to be able to be wrong a lot. You don't necessarily need to win half your trades. It totally depends what kind of a profit-taking strategy you have. But yeah, just understand what worst case is anytime you enter a position. Know how much you're going to lose if you lose the position. If that number makes you feel sick to your stomach, then you're trading too heavily. If you ever really care all that much that you lost a trade, like, yeah, you should care obviously because you want to make money obviously, but if it actually really bothers you about a trade that you took, chances are you were way too heavily involved in that position. So always ask yourself, you know, what happens if this position goes against me? My risk TP percentage. Generally speaking, I try to go between 2-1 and 3-1. Usually it's closer to 3-1, but it really depends on the Fibonacci pulls. Oh, might end up tagging the rest of my stop loss there. Yeah, so it really depends on the Fibonacci setup, so it's always going to be a little different. But let's just say this example, you know, if you're going from the 786, lower high, invalidating that theory, my TP1 there, that, for example, you're looking at about a 2-1 for a setup like that. I like the bigger ones, obviously, that end up being closer to 3-1 or 4-1. It totally depends on how the range forms. So yeah, I don't really have a set number, but at least 2-1. And actually, I should rephrase that actually, because I obviously never took this position. But when I do take those Stuber fib positions, I ladder in. So in this case, it wouldn't have, it obviously we would have only hit the 786 entry, but I ladder into my entries generally, and that brings my average entry up. So it'd actually be something closer to the 886. So it would actually have been a little bit more. Yeah, so that's actually a 3.4 to 1. And that's the beautiful thing about these Fibonacci pockets, right? Is that it obviously just lowers your risk a little bit, just tightens up your stop loss. Because if you're looking at, for example, you lose these lows, okay, I'm going to short now, I'm going to FOMO short into a breakout. Well, now that you take this loss and break out of that range, that's a massive loss there, right? Whereas if you're just getting in, on a short opportunity like this instead, that's a significantly tighter loss. The Bulls are trying to push, but yeah, like I said, I'm going to be looking for shorts later tonight. While I'm relaxing on the couch watching TV, I am also going to be searching for shorts. Oh. I don't know if I'll add to this short again at some point if it doesn't get stopped out. It really depends how structure forms and stuff, because I only like adding to positions if I can actually update stop losses into profits and at a reasonable time and that sort of thing. So it really depends how structure forms. But obviously, I have several accounts. So I like having multiple accounts on the go so that, if other opportunities show up and you don't want to adjust a position or something like that, you can always open more. $15-minute trend line. Let me erase a few things. I assume you're looking at something like so. That's actually... that'd be a bullish break. The only thing is I don't like that it doesn't have a third touch point before break. It has 1, 2. I would have liked to see a third rejection here followed by this break. Not to say it can't play out. I'm just a little picky on that sort of thing. Is that the trend line you're talking about? This is one of those things I wouldn't set a blind order along this trend line, but if we got some sort of a fake out liquidity grab retested, I would love to get in some sort of a short on something like that. Also the possibility that we see resistance with this range here, just being that there was some trading sideways around these levels here, and that is right around my 786, 886. Yeah, there's obviously some resistance there. If we do end up pumping up there, that would start at basically 63.2K up towards 64. I think that whole range would be decent grounds for resistance to kick in, a level to be cautious at. Yeah, it'd be totally natural to pull up into this daily candle a little bit before continuing to the downside. That wouldn't be all too crazy. Have some 1 hour resistance. Very close to those levels I was talking about. Ooh, another higher buy signal there. Yeah, I have a feeling the rest of my short will get stopped out. And another thing I'd be looking for on top of those levels that I was pointing out, I'm obviously also going to be watching this indicator. If all of a sudden we, if we go up, or even right now, if all of a sudden we get a lower trending sell signal, I'm going to take that as an early warning sign that things may be reversing to the downside. So if that happens before I'm out of this position, I would be considering opening another short on another account. If I get stopped out of the rest of this this short rather, before that, then I'll be just looking at re-entering basically. Because even though we're so, in my opinion, bearish on the mid to long-term trend, just notice how even a 1 minute with this reversal of these indicators, with these signals, can point out a beautiful reversal like that. So something I'm going to be watching for the opposite side of things for sure. Best trader on YouTube. Well, I don't know about that, but thank you. I appreciate that you appreciate me being here. Yeah, guys, I don't know. For now, it does look like it's going to carry on bullish just with how the MDX ALGO, the ALGO master indicator is still trending to the upside, even on the 1 minute. So when that reverses and I start seeing lower trending sell signals, I'm going to be looking at entering either more or re-entering my current short. That's kind of my plan moving ahead. And as well, I'll be looking for bearish super fibs if we start printing, lower high auto charting tools and stuff like that. Obviously, we're going to set a higher high at some point here, but then we end up getting a lower high. I'll start looking for those bearish fib pulls again. Even if we get some sort of a structure break, like let's say even now, if we end up, dumping all the way here, I'll be considering possibly taking another one there. Really depends how closely I watch tonight. I'm actually pretty tired, so I don't know how much I'll be watching the charts tonight after this, but I do have those alerts set on my 4-hour trend lines. I think those are going to be important levels to watch. I really want to see if we do get some sort of a pennant here. I mean, who knows which way that breaks, right? Maybe we get something like that. Maybe we get something like that. Honestly, those are two of the quite likely scenarios that I see happening. I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw, maybe not in this order exactly, but just if we get a third touch point followed by a breakout, then a retest, then I think that'll be quite bullish. Whereas if we get a third touch point to the downside followed by a breakout retest, I think that would be quite bearish. Just out of curiosity, if that were to play out, kind of a measured move would we be looking at? Up towards 86K potentially to the upside. This is theoretical because obviously we don't know where it's going to break out from, or if we even get a third touch point followed by a breakout. The downside, you're looking at around 35, 36K. So that pennant, if it gets the third touch point and followed by a breakout, and respecting the retest from the opposite side of things, a nice support resist flip, for example, there could be a large move looming there. A lot of what ifs, but like for now, I'm more so interested in the Fibonacci's I was talking about earlier, but it's also something worth paying attention to. First TP signal from this long signal. So the thing is, this long signal actually happened quite late. It happened here, so very minimal there. But the trend itself, though, beautiful. I just want to see it go to the opposite side soon again. One and 4 hour Stotch RSI just crossed up. That's an indicator. I don't really look at it much, so I just don't want to. I don't want to load it and make sure all the settings are good. And for one, I don't really use it very often, so I don't want to say anything wrong or anything. I do use the regular RSI quite often. Right now, I only have it up on my weekly chart, but yeah, Stotch RSI crossing up could be a nice early sign. I don't know. I just have a feeling with that daily chart, that's a rough candle close there. $64 down to 60. That's a $4,000 daily candle. That's a pretty big move. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. Actually ended up sticking around here staring at the charts a lot longer than I had planned to, so I'm going to go get a couple things done and eat some food. But thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in with me. I love doing these streams with you guys. I'm going to be doing a lot more of them, hopefully. So yeah, hopefully you guys found this stream useful. If you do like getting my take on the market and some strategies I kind of like to look for when looking for trade setups and how I use these indicators and everything, do me a favor, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel as well. And like I said, if these indicators do interest you, the MDX ALGO indicators, there's a link down below that gives you an additional 10% discount on top of current promotions at the checkout. So with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.